Welcome to Stories with Brisco and Bradshaw. I would be Bradshaw, and that would be the legendary WWE Hall of Famer, Oklahoma's favorite son, Mr. Gerald Brisco, and this is Best of the Best, where we break down the wrestling's most iconic, most famous matches of all. Look at that. He's got a shirt.
Box of gimmicks.
Best of the Best. Today, we're going to break down Pat Patterson, 1981, versus Sargent Slaughter, the alley fight in Madison Square Garden.
That's right, John. And, you know, Pat was playing the role of an announcer, if you can believe that, in that Pat French accent that he had. They're going banana, the crowd going banana, and all that stuff. Pat Patterson. It shows the versatility of it. I don't know how many people have classified this as perhaps one of the greatest, definitely the greatest match of the 80s, they say, but perhaps the greatest match of the WWE era, because this thing just hit a peak with these two guys. Pat was playing a perfect role as the announcer and the foil for the deal. And John, you want to set it up and maybe get into it? And in the beginning, we see the legendary Howard Finkel, but you know what? Even the best of the best make a mistake. See if you can pick up Howard Finkel.
They do, but before we do it, we will give a little setup to the match itself. Pat was the announcer, and Sargent Slaughter was with the Grand Wizard, Ernie Roth, and Pat got in to take the Cobra Clutch, and he ended up breaking it. Of course, Sarge, being the heel, said that he let go of it. Big bloodbath. He beat Pat up, and that's what set up this match with the alley fight, because the last match they had, they destroyed the referees. There was no finish. So now they come up upon this match in Madison Square Garden. So that's setting the plate for this iconic match in the sold-out Madison Square Garden that some people call one of the greatest matches that the Garden has ever seen. So if we can, we've got a new little format here because me and Mr. Brisco are getting technically savvy. Actually, we're not. Conrad's people are. Let's roll the match.
Billionaire Connie just bought the best of the best.
Present in the ring during the bout.
Speaking of best of the best,
there will be no holds barred. One fall will win the contest, and the participants from South Carolina, weighing 305 pounds, Sargent Slaughter.
Now take a look at Sarge when Sarge comes out. Sarge
from San Francisco, California, weighing 237 pounds, Pat Patterson.
Yeah, we get the audio to turn down a little bit. We'll talk over the match. And there was the blunder that you talked about, Mr. Brisco, with Howard Finkel. I don't know how many people caught it, but please explain it to us.
When Howard Finkel says the one fall will win this contest or something like that, there's no referee to count one fall. So how's there going to be one fall?
Howard is probably the most ribbed guy in the history of the world, right?
And probably one of the most loved guys in the history of the world too in our business.
That's true. And he would always oversell the ribs. No big deal, no big deal. They're just ribbing me, just the boys. No big deal, no big deal. He'd talk about it for an hour, said it's no big deal. That's all guys wanted to hear.
Well, Gerald, I'm glad they're ribbing me. That means they like me, right? Right?
Hey, what a suck-up Pat is, by the way. Comes out with an I Love New York shirt on, a Yankees hat.
Oh, man, he's down. He got it down. John, Pat's wearing cowboy boots, as we'll hear in a little bit. He's explained to the people just how difficult it is not to wear those working cowboy boots, but the real cowboy boots that Pat Patterson's got on. You see Pat going right to town. Man, he don't waste no time. This is a feud that's been set up for weeks and weeks, and now they're getting it. But tell us how difficult it is to maneuver around in those cowboy boots with the heels like they are.
The thing was, cowboy boots, I wrestled them a lot. They weren't that bad in the ring as long as there wasn't any water in there. They were bad on the floor because it was so slippery, because those boots have no traction on the bottom of them. What I would do is I'd take a key and I'd mark up the bottom of the boot to give you some type of traction, because it was like being on ice out there if it was slippery at all.
That's what when we'd get new wrestling boots. That's the first thing we'd do: take a key and start scuffing up those soles there. So you get it. But look at them; they're going right at it. And John, I don't know if you have, and I don't know how many people.
Oh,
have
and by the way, they're right on top of Vince here. That's Vince.
the hair there. Look at the hair. There's the man with all the hair. You can't mistake him. I mean, that he just came from that place where you used to get your hair done.
Federas. It was Joseph. Joseph Ancona was one of the greatest guys ever. He's still alive, still cutting hair there. Great guy.
He said you were a lousy tipper, though.
No, I wasn't, because Vince went there. I always tipped very well.
Okay, Pat goes right to it here. Look at him now. The guy, let me explain to you. This is a regular 2-inch leather belt that Pat got. There's no work in that belt. I mean, you can say what you want to. Pat is laying that strap in. I don't know how many of you guys got whipped when you was a kid, but that used to be my mama's favorite choice of punishment. There, take a belt to us, and so when they hit you with that belt, man, it whelps you up, right, John?
Oh my goodness, yeah, and it just stings, especially before you get sweaty. It just hurts. Strap match, Caribbean strap match, leather matches, those belts hurt. You always try to figure out a way to wear a shirt
Indian strap match
during a strap match.
Yeah, now look, Sarge has got on a white shirt. He usually wears a camouflage color shirt, and there's a reason for that we'll get into a little bit later on and viewing this thing.
Yep, that's a great point, Jerry, that you're going to get to about the white shirt. And look how Sarge is selling this. Now, it does hurt. There's no doubt about it. But Sarge, what a worker Sargent Slaughter is.
A lot of people think that this was probably Sargent Slaughter's greatest match that he had in any of his runs during WWE. I kind of doubt that, but this was such an iconic match. I don't know how many have gone back and watched the setup, watched the $5,000 challenge or the $10,000 challenge. That thing was probably just as exciting and built as much as this match here. And there you got two master psychologists in the ring. Pat Patterson, none better, and Sargent Slaughter. He doesn't get all the credit he deserves for being a great ring general, and he is exactly that. So you got two of the greatest ring generals of all time in there talking this match.
Yeah, and the finish of this match reminds me a lot of Stone Cold and Bret Hart, which we'll see in a little bit. The finish. But, how Sarge stays so strong at the end. I mean, this match is just a masterpiece of psychology.
John, I had the pleasure of riding with Pat Patterson an awful lot, talking about this match, and I also had the pleasure of riding with Sarge an awful lot and talking about this match, and I also had the combination of both of them sitting in the car with me, telling me the story, and they both recall it a little bit different, and it's remarkable how they both come up with all this stuff, and they of course, in the car when they're individual, oh, I did this. But of course, in the car with the two of them, it's more of a give and take on who created it.
Oh, come on. The boys take credit for something. That never happens.
Never.
This is one of my favorite spots. I used to do these chain matches, rope matches. At some point, you always in that thing in your mouth like a horse with a bit.
And that hurts.
It does hurt. It's horrible to be in it. It's best when you're putting it on somebody.
Yeah. Most of this match is better to be the giver than the receiver.
And Pat goes on to be the referee of WrestleMania 1. And the story is because Muhammad Ali was starting to already get a little bit of early dementia. Pat ended up stepping in and taking the place and being the referee for that first iconic match in the Garden in WrestleMania 1.
Now, don't you know there's somebody out there that probably has the remnants of that T-shirt right there? Has a gold mine.
That's right. Probably Midian.
Yeah, probably. Well, half of the boys that lived around New York were probably at this match, too.
That's right.
Every time we have an iconic match from Madison Square Garden, I was there. I was sitting in the third row. Yeah, I hitchhiked all the way from Philadelphia to go to that match.
It's amazing how when you talk about old iconic things, all the boys were there. Oh, yeah. I was on that card. I remember it well.
And then there you're seeing a young George Napolitano and Bill Apter there taking pictures.
Oh, wow. I didn't, of course that's who they are. I didn't even realize that. Sarge was a bumping fool. For being a big guy.
Yeah, and then, they advertised Sarge a threesome. Sarge is probably at the peak of his physical prowess at this time here. He is absolutely huge, and what good shape that he's in. A few years later at WrestleMania when he did the Iraqi thing, he was a little overweight, but here he's in probably the best condition of his entire career.
And I love a silly little spot like that. Sarge gets thrown out. He's selling. He goes up the top rope. Pat rolls out of the way. It doesn't work. They're both selling. That spot, if you drew that up on paper, doesn't make sense. You watch it live, and it does.
It's just guys telling the story, right, John? Just telling the story and painting a picture,
And you know what's hard about this, Jerry, is there's no referee. Right. So there's no false finishes. There's no holds that you crawl to the ropes. I mean, it's just solid action, and these guys do a masterful job. Brody used to beat guys with that flying knee.
Right.
That's a beautiful knee by Pat. Brody used to run around and do that high flying knee from the mat. Looked like it just
that
killed
was a Ray Stevens special. That Ray Stevens high knee is what we used to call it back in the old days. I mean, it was a Ray Stevens.
Stevens. Pat, I'm sure got it from Ray Stevens, right?
I'm sure he did, yeah, because they were such a tremendous tag team out in California.
And see, here's now where you normally go for a false finish, but you can't. So you got to keep the action going. These matches can be hard. They're going to be a lot of fun, but they can be hard.
Yeah, you don't realize how important the presence of a referee is until you watch something like it. Even as a fan, we're both sitting there waiting, count referee, kick out, and stuff like that. You just got to feel these situations more than normal, because you have no referee there to kind of set the tempo for you.
Did you ever work with the Grand Wizard?
Never did. I met the Grand Wizard, Ernie, several times. Ernie had a place down here in Florida. Of course, during the winter time, all New York talent came down to Florida, and Eddie graciously booked him. So got to be around him just a little bit like that, in and out, but nothing where I got to work around him. Steady.
Nice guy.
It seemed like a super guy. He liked the juice, and of course down here when he was down here it was vacation, so. Working or otherwise, he was usually juiced up.
He had a lot of heat.
Yeah.
Had a lot of heat, especially up in New York with all the fancy stuff he'd wear, the sunglasses. A lot of people don't talk about Ernie Roth, the Grand Wizard, as being one of the great managers, but he was a huge part of this era.
That whole class of managers that they had in New York at that time, Ernie Roth, the other guys, the Wizard, what was some
Albano up there at the time?
Captain Lou. I mean, they're classic examples of professional wrestling managers. Look at bump Pat takes it.
Arnie Scollin was a great manager. And he was so good because he would just wear that towel over his shoulder and just stand there and not say anything. It was a real unique way that he managed. It was really cool the way he did it.
Oh, he was so good. He was almost, you thought he was legit.
Hey, look at Sarge here. Sarge gets up there and realizes this is a bad idea.
Now, this is the second time, and I really think that if there's a flaw in this match, that was probably the only foofall in the entire match.
I don't know if Pat didn't feed him it looked like Pat didn't see what he wanted. And it also looked like Sarge got up there and thought, you know what, this is really dumb.
I was thinking that, or Pat was supposed to come through like he's doing now, come through the apron and Sarge
and take us something off the top.
But we'll just say Sarge was like a super cat. He got up there so quick, Pat didn't have time to react. So it still turned out good. The two pros made it work.
Here's Sarge. Just took his blade off his left wrist. Look at it right there.
Yeah, watch him. See him there? Now watch his arm. Well, look at his arm when he comes out of there. I mean, look at his arm. I mean, when he had to have squirted out of there so bad that when he come out, that arm.
Oh man, that was fast.
Yeah,
He still got it, by the way. For those that are out there that are interested, He puts it in his trunks, his upper trunks, here in a little bit.
Now that's what the old time we call a drunken cowboy cell there. The old drunk cowboy, the old John Wayne cell in bar fight.
And the crowd is going banana.
The crowd is going banana. Pat, look at Pat firing up there.
There's Sarge putting the old blade up.
I mean, folks, he hit one of those things that just bleeds like, and you get scared sometime when you hit those. I'm not speaking from experience, but I'm speaking of what other guys have told me, because you're just squirting out blood so much, you don't know how much it, until you get dizzy and fall over.
But at this point, I mean, we talk about this in the match we discussed with Hanson. When you get the juice late in the match and you build up to it, now the work's done. I mean, Sarge, all he has to do is sell the juice, and this is it. I mean,
and he's doing such a great job of not knowing, selling the juice and not knowing where he's from. Now you see why he got that white T-shirt on when Sarge usually wears that camouflage T-shirt, so that juice is all covered, that white visual stuff right there.
Sarge pulls out the brass knuckles. Vince on commentary calls it perfectly, the brass knuckles. And what's so great about this is Sarge tries to use the brass knuckles again a few times, and Pat keeps blocking it. And look at Sarge sell, man. That's the best. There's nothing like when a crowd is that hot. You got juice all over you. Here's the block.
Anything. You could do anything at that point there when a Sarge, when a crowd's really hot like that.
And the key is you build them first. You build them first, then you get the color. And here goes Sarge now. He's just going to sell. Brass knuckles still on his right hand, so you got the threat there.
Looks like Sarge is suffering a little bit there. John?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's suffering from early stages of male pattern baldness there.
Oh, would Vince hate that when the camera guys will get a baby face that's got a bald spot.
Get off of that damn thing now.
Look at Sarge selling now. He just keeps getting up, doesn't know where he's at.
And now he's painting the picture. You can do anything to me that you want. I ain't quitting.
That's right. That's why I compare this to Stone Cold Bret Hart. When Steve just wouldn't quit. Juice all over him, wouldn't quit. This makes Pat, but it also makes Sarge. He just took out the cameraman, by the way. Look at the cameraman down there.
Now, folks, he's getting well by this cowboy boot here, and that's not a working boot there. When somebody usually has this kind of match, they're usually wearing cowboy boots for usually the first time. And when they hit it with you, they don't know how to work that damn thing like the regular cowboys like Layfield or Goodish or Stan or some of those guys. Pat probably one time wore the cowboy boots, and he's hitting you with that. And those boots are stiff, man.
There's the towel from Ernie Roth, the Grand Wizard.
That's enough. My guy's not giving up.
And that's a great point. I worked so many bull rope matches. Guys didn't know how to use the belt. I knew how to use it. I got potatoed. I got my nose broke. It was always tough when a guy was using a gimmick he wasn't comfortable using.
Yeah.
But look at Sarge here. The match is over. Pat's celebrating. Sarge is still standing, barely.
And that's a good point right there. Sarge is still on his feet, John. So this thing didn't hurt Sarge at all. I mean, his manager threw in the towel because he wanted him to live to fight another day. This match, I guess, is considered so violent and so visual that it's not even on network, John. We got to pick it up here on YouTube.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. But look at Sarge here. Ernie Roth is still trying to stop him. Sarge doesn't know where he is. He's all beat up, bloodied, selling all the way to the back. I mean, that's a working son of a gun, man. That's Sarge. What a freaking master.
Oh, man.
And here, look at Pat. Pat down selling. He just won the match.
Yeah, now Pat's the only one down in this thing. Sarge walked out. Sarge walked out on his own 2 feet without the assist of Ernie. And here's Pat, who won the match, down on the match selling. That's a story right there, folks.
Yep. That is a master class in how to work. And look at the people. Unbelievable.
All the reaction they got was just wow. That's the reactions that we talk about, that we work for, that we dream about receiving. And here it was in Madison Square Garden. But folks, I want to tell you again, if you have not seen the setup, the $5,000 challenge, go do yourself a favor and watch this, and then go and watch the $5,000 challenge where the guy that's supposed to do the job walks out on Sarge, and finally Pat's had enough. And I've read it described as a classic case of bully, where Sarge just bullies Pat and finally taking the challenge. He doubles the money, $10,000. But watch the setup for this match, and you wow, this then you see why it was so violent in the match.
Yeah, and Sarge, you look at how he did his characters in history. Right after Vietnam, he was a drill instructor. Right after the Vietnam War was over, he's a drill instructor. Got it off of a movie, and at that time, America was not looking very favorable at drill instructors. A lot of guys served. They didn't like their drill instructor, or they didn't like the war. He was playing off a national sentiment that he was going to be this drill instructor and be a bad guy. Well, then when it changed, when you have the sentiment change and this patriotism, Sarge becomes a babyface, and this huge babyface, G.I. Joe. Then during the Iraqi war, he turns the other way and becomes a sympathizer. I mean, it's just, Sarge was very smart in public perception and how to play that into the business.
Oh, Sarge was fantastic with him. By the way, John, as you know, you can hear the entire Sargent Slaughter story on Stories with Brisco and Bradshaw on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast from.
That's right. And what a story it was. I mean, Sarge was on with us for about 2.5 hours and went through all of the WrestleMania plans that got canceled because of security. And he had the death threats that he had, that Vince had. It was,
his family had to take his girls out of school because of threats and all that. I mean, that's all in those stories with Brisco and Bradshaw.
Hey, Jerry, you're good friends with Pat. Did he ever say, I'm going to the store and get bananas? Or is it always banana?
Banana. I said, Pat, you sure? He said, well, I go and run in the store, before we take off. And he said, are you going into the grocery? Yeah. He said, grab me a banana. I said, you sure you don't want any bananas? No, I just want banana.
For those that don't know, Pat would always say, the people, they go banana. They go banana.
And wow, I miss that. It's been a little over a year now, and we all miss Pat's sense of humor. But we saw a little bit of Pat Patterson's genius in this thing here tonight. I mean, we saw how to work, how to tell a story, how to end a match where neither contestant is hurt, and one of them is clearly the winner and one of them is clearly the loser, but they were able to get out of that. And here in Sarge, on another interview, and I apologize to the guy, but it was a tremendous interview. He interviewed Sarge's thoughts about this mostly. And, when Vince came to him, we're going to have this alley fight. Well, okay, how you win? Well, you don't win. It's an alley fight. So, they're sitting in the dressing room, and he looks over at Pat, how we ending this thing? I don't know. Of course, so Ernie's been around everything. And Pat said, how do you want to do it? Because supposedly. Sarge, I don't have a clue. I don't know what we're supposed to do. Ernie, do you have any experiences? Do you know how we're supposed to end this? He said, no. He said, give me a second. So Ernie left. I don't know if he went out and drank a fifth of whiskey or something, but he came back and he told Sergeant Pat, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. So that's sort of the urban legend of the finish there. Now, who Ernie went and talked to? Did he go talk to the old man, and say, hey, we need a finish on this. How about me throwing in the towel or something like that? Which, later, a few years later, Arnie Skolin, you mentioned earlier, he threw in a historic towel on a match.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So to me, it's one of the greatest finishes ever because it just makes everybody. It makes everybody, and it makes everybody with, like it did Stone Cold and Bret Hart. Steve got covered in juice and selling like crazy, but he never died.
I'm not giving out.
And
now,
he made it.
we don't know if this match would this match result in more return matches, or was this the end of the angle, the finish? Or
I think this was the blow off.
yeah, what a blow off.
Pat later, came back in and did a few other things, but not a ton. He had become the Intercontinental Champion to challenge Backlund, where in that tournament down in Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah. And I like I said, when I was down to Rio for the 216 Olympics, I got me an Uber driver. I went to that Uber driver, Pat Patterson, Intercontinental Champion. Like who? Lucha Libre. Even though they speak Portuguese, I thought Spanish.
Yeah, they don't speak Spanish.
They speak Portuguese. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Even though, but he understood what I thought when I did that. This is the international side for pro wrestling. So I said, Pat Patterson. Oh, number one. I knew what he meant. For number one, first Intercontinental Champion. That's how easy it is to communicate in foreign countries, John. So he drove me to this old worn out part of Rio that buildings were falling down and all this stuff. But he pointed over there to this building that had fallen down. But there was one big pillar left. And on it, I went over there and there's grass growing up there, bottles and all this other stuff that I don't want mentioned on a family show here. And I finally got it out of the way. And I see this little plaque etched in stone. It's Pat Patterson first Intercontinental Championship won right here on this side, historical side. I took a picture of it, and I had a picture of it, but as everybody knows, I got pickpocketed that night in Rio, lost my phone, my wallet, and everything, so I have no proof that I couldn't ever get back there because I couldn't find that Uber driver again.
Did you see Buddy Rogers' plaque too? Because he won the WWF title down there as well.
That was on the other. They told me that was on the other corner, but I couldn't get over there because of all the overgrowth and everything. But it was a historical. It was a memorable moment, John. It was
a shame you lost the
in my
picture.
life. When you saw Victoria Falls for the first time, you told me about.
Yeah, that's right.
It was that amazing, man.
Exactly. Well, folks, there you have it. One of the most iconic matches in WrestleMania, in wrestling history, in Madison Square Garden history, in WWE history. Two of the greatest legends of all time, Pat Patterson and Sargent Slaughter. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, Stories with Brisco and Bradshaw. Like, subscribe to all that stuff. And everywhere you can get podcasts, Stories with Brisco and Bradshaw, we've got legends themselves telling their legendary stories. For Mr. Brisco, the WWE Hall of Famer and Oklahoma's favorite son, and me, Bradshaw, thanks for joining us.